Hello everyone, thanks for joining. My name is Marie. I'm an app maker and a founder at unityp.ch, and I'm talking to you today from Geneva, Switzerland, where the weather is pretty cold and rainy. I am here today to introduce my women's safety app, TribeCheck, and tell you how I learned to code after 40 years old. But what this story is really about is fear and courage. Preparing this speech today, I asked women in my network to share an accomplishment they were proud of as a woman in tech. I received about a dozen answers. One woman was proud that she could transition to cybersecurity, another person was really glad that her startup was being funded, and all those testimonies were really reasons to celebrate. But they were all shared with me via personal message, it was on LinkedIn, not publicly in the comments of my post. And that made me wonder. I always thought that I was the only one to hit the glass ceiling, before I realized that we women only apply to job offers if we think we match 100% of criteria. On the other side, men apply as soon as they comply with 60% of the requirements. And I always considered myself a bit stupid for being scared when walking alone at night or asking my sister or my mom to check in on me every once in a while. Before I realized I wasn't alone, and that is something that most women feel or experience. Courage is not being scared, it's doing it anyway. At 40 years old, I decided to confront my fears and do something I would never have thought myself capable of, learning to code and make my own women's safety app. I won't lie to you, it wasn't always easy. At the time, I was working 2 jobs, my consulting job and my teaching job, plus taking care of family and business, so 10 minutes in my kitchen while dinner was cooking was often the only moment I got in my day to dedicate to my project. What kept me going is remembering why I started, and convincing myself that even 1 minute of coding is better than 0. What helped me in this process of being able to make my own apps? First, YouTube. I watched a lot of YouTube videos, other developers coding and commenting as they were coding step by step. Then I trained with the Flutter, and I'll come back to what Flutter is, Learning Path and Code Labs to get some practice. I'm going to be honest with you, I could not have done this without ChatGPT. It helped me to learn, understand my mistakes, and brainstorm on architecture. Vibe coding is a great way to get started, and today's progress on AI is full of opportunities for app makers and learning to code and create your own digital products. And it's not all or nothing. It's one more tool, a very efficient and powerful tool, to kickstart your projects and make the learning curve more accessible. And finally, what also helped me was making coding a habit, no matter where, when I was, or how much time I got. My biggest challenges, I assumed that learning to code would be, and of course it was hard. But the main challenge for me was really to find the time to work on my projects and come up with a new life balance and routines. Publishing on the stores is much more complex than we think, especially as an independent developer. You might not know this, but there's a whole validation process before your apps can be publicly available on the stores. As part of this process, Android, for example, requires a mandatory beta testing phase with at least 12 testers for at least 14 days. So definitely something you want to plan in your project. And once the app is published, another challenge is keeping up with the updates and libraries and frameworks, and that's really an everlasting job and responsibility. And finally, encryption comes with its own validation process and makes everything just a bit longer. Just to focus on Flutter, so it's Google's framework for mobile app development. I chose this versus React, for example, mainly because coding with Dart, that's the coding language, seemed very natural to me. And I really enjoy Flutter basic concepts. Also, I really like that it allows me to package my app for both Android and iOS, but of course, even if I write my code on VS Code on my Windows, I still need a Mac and Xcode to publish for iOS, and Flutter is really well connected with Firebase as well. And as a designer, Flutter is especially efficient to help me design UI exactly as I see it in my head. My first app, TribeCheck, is a safety app for women. It's a bit like an SOS button, only it works even if you are unable to push a button yourself, because it's very hard to call for help when you're unconscious, threatened, or confused. What does it do? So basically, when you're feeling a bit vulnerable or insecure, instead of sending a message to your mom or your sister asking to check in on you, you program a check-in in, for example, 30 minutes. When you receive the check-in 30 minutes later, if you answer that you're okay, then nothing happens and nobody will ever know that you were feeling insecure. If you miss the check-in, then your trusted contacts get a warning with all the useful information to assist you. One big difference compared to other safety apps is anonymity. I don't know your email, your phone number, your address, I don't know who you are. I wanted to make a bit of a focus on that. When I started working on TribeCheck, I realized geolocation was one useful information to assist you. But in the wrong hands, this information could also be used to harm you. That's why I decided to use anonymous user accounts and to follow privacy by design and do no harm philosophies. Privacy by design means protecting users' data is core to your architecture from the start. It means only collecting the data that you really need for the app to work, and only once the user has agreed to do so. And it also means assuming the responsibility for the data you're trusted with. Do no harm comes from the humanitarian sector and means that what you do to help people should not add any risk to the persons you're trying to help. It means strong risk analysis beforehand and sometimes letting go of this fancy feature that you'd like to program. In TribeCheck, users are anonymous, user data is encrypted, geolocation is optional, and users can view and remove all the data in their history. Today, TribeCheck is available on both Android and iOS stores, and I invite you on this call to install it with your family, install it with your friends, because when you need an SOS button, it's too late. You need to prepare your safety net before you're actually in danger. Since then, I have developed 2 more apps, including Loops, which is a very lean, simple nature sounds player, and I particularly enjoy it when I'm working in open space offices, maybe you know what I mean. I'll be starting the beta tests for my 3rd app, the Hot Dog Meter, in the coming weeks. You can visit my website unityp.ch to view more about my different projects, and I'd be glad to invite you to the beta test phase for this one. Am I still scared? Yes, I'm scared walking alone at night. I'm scared for my children and my husband. I'm scared of change, and I'm scared of not being seen. I'm scared I'll never be successful as an app maker. I'm scared I will be laughed at. But I'm still doing it anyway. Because making something on my own is addictive. Because it turns out I love coding. Because I want to have an impact and make a difference in people's lives. And because I believe in what I'm doing. If I can do it, so can you. I know you're scared, but I believe in us and I believe in you. Do it scared. Do it with your imposter syndrome. Do it in your kitchen while dinner is cooking, but do it anyway. Thank you. Thank you all for listening to me, and I wish you a very good end of the week, good Friday, and really enjoy the rest of the conferences at this Women in Tech Global Conference. Bye-bye.